The Raiders have grabbed an absolute steal in this draft in the second round, selecting Treydan Stukes out of Arizona. We're going to show you some interesting plays from this guy, what a lot of people are saying about him. One NFL scout actually said that this versatile safety with a 4.3 40-yard dash is the best safety in this draft class, even better than Caleb Downs, who went at pick 10. The Raiders grabbed Stukes here at pick 38 after making a massive trade with the Houston Texans. I was shocked to see this. So at the top of the second round at pick 36, it was happening. The Raiders were projected to select at that moment. And then boom, out of nowhere, they traded back, grabbed an extra third rounder from the Houston Texans. This was absolutely brilliant. Just had to give up a fourth rounder, which they already had an extra one of it. Well, either way, we're going to talk about Stukes, what to expect from him. I think this guy could be a game-changing safety, playing multiple positions for the Raiders. A lot of people are comping him to Minkah Fitzpatrick in his prime. We're going to take a look at his profile. What were the scouts saying ahead of time? I think some Chiefs fans were even thinking they're going to select him at pick 29 in the first round. So let's break this down, but real quick. Today's video is sponsored by Prize Picks with code HMA. The draft is happening right now as we speak, so we're trying to get as many signups as possible. Unfortunately, I know nothing about basketball, which is why I'm losing and losing and losing, but I know this football season I'll be feeling like a champion. You can follow my progress on Prize Picks at Wi-Fi Willie. Go ahead and laugh at my picks. If you like playing and building daily fantasy lineups, do it at Prize Picks with code HMA. And remember, only play if you can do it responsibly. Link is in the description below. So Treydan Stukes had some injury concerns. He's a 6-year player. He's going to be 25 this year, a little older, but a dynamic defensive back. And in February, his stock rose significantly after he ran a 4.3 40-yard dash. That's going to impress a lot of the scouts and apparently impress the Raiders. And it's great that the Raiders are able to trade back and I think still get their guy. He's going to be competing with Isaiah Pola-Mao, who's the starting safety currently. And I think Stukes, as long as he stays healthy, could solidify himself as definitely a starter for the Raiders at safety, maybe even eventually play nickel once Teron Johnson hangs it up and is no longer with the team. The Raiders traded for him, that slot corner in the nickel just this past offseason from the Buffalo Bills. Now, he was a walk-on, versatile, instinctive defensive back who can play inside and out. He finished his career in college with 29 pass breakups, 7 interceptions. He's likely going to be a nickel in the NFL. I think the Raiders are going to have him, like I said, be a nickel eventually. In the meantime, compete with Pola-Mao for that safety spot. You got Jeremy Chin, Pola-Mao there, but he does have a lot of tape because he's played so many games and has been in college for several years. I like the fact that the Raiders took a risk on him, even though he has had some injury concerns. And there you see him breaking some passes up. And he had PFF really hype this guy up ahead of the draft. I was interested to see what
I think his
here.
skills translate perfectly to being a true free safety. He's got great in-game speed. He has excellent recovery speed and coverage. The ball skills are starting to ramp up. You see the 4 interceptions this year. Stukes is a madman going downhill against screens and wants in on the action and wants to tackle and throw his body around. I think there's a story here where like nothing's been handed to him and he's had to earn every second of being the guy on this team. He just feels like an NFL free safety to me.
So really high praise from PFF. Also the motivating factor, what they're bringing up. You have McMillan, the first round pick for the Carolina Panthers receiver who did really well his rookie year. He was teammates with Stukes, and he had a lot of good praise to say to him before the draft. Say about him.
I can go on and on about him. That's good. People's right there. You know, definitely somebody that will add energy to the locker room. Very coachable, very versatile. Plays inside and out. I've seen him do everything in my years at Arizona. So, you know, me and him have a pretty good bond. You know, we was able to go up against each other for 3 years. So, yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to what the future holds for him.
So you could see that McMillan from the Carolina Panthers desperately wanted his team to try to grab Stukes, and that's interesting to see and point out that he went up against McMillan a lot in practice, who proved himself to be a starting caliber B+ A player as a rookie wide receiver, which is really tough to do. You had a lot of people hype him up, and here's some interesting facts about him: is the fact that he's played 2,674 snaps between safety, slot, the majority, and also outside cornerback. This is from at No Flags Film on X. Them pointing out some of these facts here. A matchup-proof athlete with a size, recovery speed, burst, and hip fluidity to execute a wide range of coverage assignments. Obviously, you know his stats over the years, but New York Times goes in particular about Stukes with their draft profile. Projected to be a second, third round, but like I said, I saw some fans of other teams being content with selecting Stukes high in the second round and hoping that he falls for them. And an instinctive athlete with confidence and versatility will fit best in a nickel defense. He was a starter for 3.5 years at Arizona, primarily an outside cornerback in his first 3 seasons before moving inside for his final 3 years. And in his final season, he didn't allow a touchdown in coverage and led the Big 12 in interceptions per game. So Stukes can be too reactionary at times, but he is an instinctive athlete who plays with quiet confidence and valuable versatility. He projects best in the nickel while offering outside or single high flexibility. So this guy really is going to be a type of chess piece that it seems like the Raiders could move anywhere on their secondary. Now, I didn't feel like secondary was a huge need for the Raiders outside of defensive tackle, outside of maybe offensive tackle as well, or maybe guard. I thought they would maybe target those spots or even wide receiver, but it seems like they're having a little bit more belief in Jack Besh, the former second-round pick at wide receiver, and Dante Thornton, the former fourth-round pick. Now, the only quarterbacks in college last year who had 90-plus PFF grades was Mansour Delane, who the Chiefs were able to grab early in the first round, Leonard Moore, and then Treydan Stukes. So Stukes, a lot of praise happening there when it comes to this new safety for the Raiders. 6 foot, 190 pounds. That's some pretty good measurements there. Athletic mover with fluid hips and no lag when turning to carry speed. Has recovery gear to close space late and undercut throws. On-ball production stands out. 29 passes defended. Good eyes. The weaknesses, a mediocre build, arm length, hand size. Caught upright in his pedal, leaving him late to drive at the tops of routes. Willing tackler, but values physicality over technique. And obviously, he tore his ACL in 2024, which required surgery, caused him to miss some time, and also had an injury in 22. And he's old. He's going to turn 25 years old, but I think this guy has a very high floor for the Raiders. I think he has an even higher ceiling. I think they need difference makers on defense. They have a lot of average players around Max Crosby. They need these guys who could maybe turn into an elite player. And I think with running that 4.340, already having really good ball skills that people are praising. He was a captain in college as well. You got to love that. I think that makes him a very desirable player for the Raiders. And also being an older guy, you know, you got a lot of people, young people on this team right now. You need some of that old leadership. Lowest passer rating allowed among the 2026 NFL draft corners. Chris Johnson was taken in the first round by the Miami Dolphins, and like we said, Delane to the Chiefs. So then you have Stukes being taken by the Raiders in the second round, and he had the third best passer rating as a corner. B+ grade NFL draft files given that for Stukes. And you also have some more highlights and plays by Gridiron, showing some of the interceptions that he was able to grab in college. I mean, that is great ball skills, and I think you're seeing this more his senior year when I was reading up on him and taking a look at it. These skills, the turnovers, actually being able to, instead of just bat the ball away, turn it into an interception. This is something that's been developing as of late in his game as a senior. And, you know, even though he's 6 foot, when I'm looking at his size compared to these college players, I like his size here, honestly. And I think it'll translate well to the NFL. You can see him reading that route perfectly, grabbing some interceptions. I mean, whew. Raiders look like they may be getting a difference maker early on. And even Jeremy Chin, he's a little, you know, he's in his late 20s. We also need a star safety for the future. Now, the Raiders could have grabbed McNeil Warren out of Toledo as a safety, and I thought they were maybe going to go that route because I thought defensive back was a possibility if it was just the best player available. D'Angelo Pons out of Indiana was also on the board available. I thought the Raiders might take him. He had a lot of positive things to say about Mendoza and even interviewed with the Raiders in the pre-draft process. There was also Chris Bell available, a wide receiver who has shown great production in the past, but has had injury concerns. I thought the Raiders might consider him. Jeremy Bernard, a gadget, kind of speedy receiver, maybe might hopefully fall to the 3rd round for the Raiders. We'll talk about what they can do coming up in just a little bit. But that was really the direction I expected, either Terrell, Pons, McNeil, or Warren. And unfortunately for the Raiders, because they made that trade with the Houston Texans grabbed Caden McDonald, the defensive tackle out of Ohio State that I thought the Raiders might think about selecting, but apparently they're willing to move on from him and have the Houston Texans grab Caden McDonald. You had Colton Hood go right before the Raiders were selecting at pick 37. And I'm recording this right now in the middle of the draft as the picks are starting to come in. I thought the Raiders might consider Christian Miller, defensive tackle out of Georgia, him being a possibility. There is still that void on this team since the absence of Christian Wilkins. Either way, I think that this move, safe. I like it. I think this guy could be a serious difference maker if the medicals check out because of the ACL in the past. I think this guy could have a really high ceiling. Minkah Fitzpatrick is the comparison he's getting right now. Jeremy Chin, a leader on the team, could help lead him. And Polamalu, maybe Polamalu will step his game up and try to keep this young man away. But either way, if the Raiders go ahead and keep Polamalu, I think in 2027, Teron Johnson, later in his career, the slot corner, he may be moving on. And you can have a situation where you have, all 3 of these players on the field, Stukes, Polamalu, and Jeremy Chin, but Stukes in the slot. So great move by the Raiders. One of the most highly touted players in the draft, maybe the best safety in the draft, better than Caleb Downs, who was selected at pick 10. I think you got to be stoked about the way that this team's going in the direction with Mendoza getting another 3rd round pick. Raiders now have 2 3rd round picks and still have 2 4th round picks. We're going to be breaking down everything with this team. Subscribe to me, Wi-Fi Willie, for more content.